This is Mike, and welcome to episode number 198 of the EcomCrew podcast. Today we're back with another Under the Hood segment. I love doing these things, talking to podcast listeners out there. If you want to be on your very own Under the Hood, go to ecomcrew.com/underthehood. What we do here is give an opportunity for podcast listeners to submit their request to be on the EcomCrew podcast, get a free hour of coaching. We record that phone call, and in return, we turn it into one of these podcast episodes. Not all the phone calls end up being podcasts, so even if you don't become a podcast, you still get a free hour of coaching. And for a lot of people, we're getting results back now because it's been 6 to 9 months or something like that since we started doing these. And some of the results we've been able to do for people in just 1 hour have been pretty cool. So go to ecomcrew.com/underthehood to sign up. Don't be scared. Don't be shy. We love talking to all of our podcast listeners. Just real quick reminder, I've been talking about this the last few episodes. If you go to ecomcrew.com/premium, you can sign up to be on the wait list. We're going to be opening it up for one last time in 2018 with a special offer. And after that, prices go up in 2019 pretty substantially. So if you've been on the fence of joining EcomCrew Premium, go check that out at ecomcrew.com/premium. To review what you get at EcomCrew Premium, it's 4 full-length classes that you can take at your own pace whenever you want. We've been adding to those about once a quarter, every 4 months or so. We add a new course to that. We also have twice monthly webinars. One of the webinars is an open Q&A where you can ask any questions you might have. The other one is behind the scenes of our brands, or we bring in a special guest. Those have been proven to be quite valuable. You also get access to our private Facebook community. And if that wasn't all enough, you get unlimited access to Dave and I. We respond to all emails within 1 to 2 business days with any question you have about e-commerce or anything else. We'll try to respond to anything we can. So head over to ecomcrew.com/premium to get on that wait list. There's no obligation if you're on the list to buy anything. All right, let's get into this Under the Hood podcast with Colin. I hope you guys enjoy.
Welcome to the EcomCrew podcast, hosted by Mike Jackness and Dave Bryant, who together run e-commerce businesses that generate 8 figures annually. Mike and Dave take pride in running a podcast that isn't just fluff, talking about specific products, problems, and real-world solutions. In the words of one of our favorite reviews, this podcast is like a playbook for e-commerce. You can take any episode and spend the next month trying to implement it. So without further ado, here's the EcomCrew.
Hey, Colin, welcome to the EcomCrew podcast, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you so much for coming on today. Before we get started, let me just tell everybody what's going on here. I'd like to do that for every Under the Hood segment. And if you want to be on your own Under the Hood segment, you can go to ecomcrew.com/underthehood. And what we do here is interview podcast listeners that are struggling with something in their business, and hopefully I can help them with whatever that is. And in return, we record that conversation and make it a podcast, which is what you're listening to today. So excited to dig into that, Colin. But if you've listened to a few of these, you know the first thing I always ask, because I'm just always so curious, is how did you get involved in e-commerce?
I've always kind of been involved buying and selling stuff on eBay and Craigslist when I was younger. And then this whole thing just kind of started as a hobby because I had a planted fish tank and just thought it was kind of a fun thing to do myself, and just kind of evolved from there.
Gotcha. And that kind of alludes into what you actually got into, which is, it sounds like selling aquarium fertilizer and supplies, according to the notes that Abby had sent me over here.
Yeah. So mostly it's aquarium fertilizer. I sell some other random things associated with that kind of niche. But yeah, I mean, predominantly I manufacture aquarium fertilizer for planted aquariums.
Okay, so you're actually making the stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I mean, I buy the bulk. I mean, I do sell some dry stuff, which basically I just kind of repackage. But for the most part, my primary thing is that I manufacture the liquid fertilizer.
Okay. And I mean, you said it was kind of a hobby for you. I mean, how did you discover actually, I mean, did you have like a chemistry background or any type of background that helped you with that? Or is it just simply taking stuff out of a 50-gallon drum and putting it in a 8-ounce bottle kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I graduated from college with a biology and chemistry degree. But for the most part, it's just I kind of had forgotten about a lot of that stuff by the time I started this, and just kind of teaching myself how to do it. And it's gone from there.
Gotcha. So it sounds like maybe your college degree didn't really end up being what you ended up doing in real life when you got to be an adult, or were you
Well, yeah, I mean, I still use the degree. I'm in the medical field.
Okay.
And it's eventually I'd like to do the online stuff or e-commerce stuff full time. Currently, I just have cut back to about half time than my day job, and then spend the other time on the e-commerce business.
Okay, perfect. So it's cool that you have a job that you can do that, which is neat. So
Yeah.
you're working basically, is it like 2 or 3 days a week, or do you go in 4 hours a day? How is that working for
Yeah, I
you?
work 2.5 days a week.
Okay, very cool. So what do you spend your other 2.5 days? And if I know, like most entrepreneurs, that you probably end up spending more than 40 hours a week or 20 hours a week on the on your own personal project here, this aquarium stuff. Like, how much time are you actually spending on it right now?
So I recently hired kind of my first part-time person to take over a lot of the bottling and that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And so that's kind of freed me up, and now it's trying to be, trying to manage my time better and actually be productive versus sitting around doing nothing, trying to figure out what I should be doing. But yeah, for the most part, I spend time packaging stuff, bottling stuff, and then I still am shipping out orders, even though I know you're going to tell me that I shouldn't be doing that, but that's what I'm doing at this point.
Yeah, well, you already know what's coming probably, but there could be, I might not say that because if it's fertilizer and stuff, it might be hard to put in FBA. I'm not really sure what kind of dangerous goods category that would be under and things like that, but we'll kind of dig into that when that time comes. So I'm just trying to get some more understanding of your business before we get into you asking questions, so I can get a firmer understanding. So it sounds like you're working half time at a regular job, working half time doing this. You probably want to get to the point where, if you've already made that leap, to be able to do this full time. So that's in the back of my mind. That'll be the goal for this call, is how to get you there. So what's been your revenue and profits and stuff so far to be able to get you to the point where you've been able to get this far?
So last year, my gross revenue was just over 250,000.
Okay.
And I made gross profits around 50%, and net profit, once I got done writing off everything, it was around I want to say 30%.
Okay, so 75K.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can tell you just from all the different people I talk to that that's a really high net profit. So congratulations on having a great margin business. And part of that might just be because you're probably still in the solopreneur realm. So if you were to take a salary and put that on there, you might be more in a typical net profit range.
Exactly. Yeah. So honestly, I have just, since I backed out to just working my day job 2.5 days a week, I think I've taken 1 or 2 paychecks ever. So, that doesn't count. It's kind of a skewed number because of that. But once I start actually paying myself and all that, I'm sure it'll be a little bit lower.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, even still, I mean, like, major kudos and congratulations getting to the point where you're at. Because, I mean, you've bootstrapped something from absolute scratch, and it isn't like, I mean, not to take away from private label sellers, and I'm throwing myself under the bus here too because we're a private label seller, but you've been able to create a product yourself from scratch, which is really darn neat, and be able to sell $250,000 over the year. So congrats.
Yeah. And so it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so let's just, one last question I have here is just is going to be on the breakdown of that 250K. So in percentage terms, what percentage sales is coming from your own site, and if your own site's a big part of that, how much of it's organic versus PPC, and then Amazon, eBay, those types of channels?
Okay, so last year I did 82,000 through my website, and Amazon was just, I don't have that in front of me, but it was just over 100,000. And the rest was, inconsequential amount from eBay. I really haven't focused on that at all. And the rest is wholesale stuff that I do.
Okay. Well, wholesale's cool to have as well. And you definitely have the margins to support that. So doing rough math on the fly, which you should never do on a podcast. That's about, 70K on wholesale, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And then the one thing that you didn't mention there on the 82K from the website is all that like organic, or do you have PPC as a part of that mix?
I mean, honestly, I've done a few Facebook advertisements. Like, I mean, I've probably spent $100, maybe $200 over that entire year. I may have done it 2 or 3 times, and it never seemed to be. I don't know. I just kind of gave up on it because I didn't really think that it was worth it at the time, or that it was just not. I wasn't getting the reach that I was hoping to for what I was paying for it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what about like Google PPC or Google Shopping?
No, none.
None of that.
I mean,
okay.
I don't think that I'm set up on Google Shopping, which is something all that's kind of where I'm headed and kind of why we're doing this call now, because I really am, not knowledgeable whatsoever in any of that kind of stuff. It's all overwhelming every time I look at it. So.
Yeah, Google Shopping is not, it's like kind of clear as mud on how to set it up. I actually just, we had one of our marketing guys here who's like our entry-level marketing guy do it, and he was just like, he had a lot of questions, but we just turned it on for a while, baby, because we're just kind of getting that site to a point where it made sense. And I guess surprisingly and not surprisingly, if you can have both of those things happen at the same time, it did really well. Like, I mean, like right out of the gates, we're making sales for stuff through Google Shopping at a profitable spend. It's still one of the few things left out there that seems to work that isn't completely arbitraged to death. Certainly Google AdWords is, but the shopping side of it seems to still be a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And I think my website, I use BigCommerce. I think my website's set up to be eligible for, I've got that part turned on, but I'm assuming I've got to actually make an account, which I haven't done.
Yeah. So let me just run through quickly at a high level, and we'll get back into the other questions here just to kind of answer this while we're talking about it. But very high level, what you're going to do is you're going to make you're going to sync your product catalog to something called Google Merchant Center. So you're going to need to make a Google Merchant Center account. It's actually quite simple. There's an app or a plugin, or I think maybe even BigCommerce does it natively now. It's been a while since we switched over from BigCommerce. And then those products will sync over to the Merchant Center. And basically, like, there's a status of either they're approved or not approved. It's very simple. And there's only a few settings in Merchant Center to set up, which is basically your tax rates and your shipping. It's like incredibly simple. It seems a little bit complicated and daunting at first, but it really is like that simple. And then you'll go into Google AdWords and start running Google Shopping ads based on that Merchant Center data, and that's all there is to it.
Okay. Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend that. So so that was kind of the first question. I guess we kind of segued into that. I kind of threw that first piece of advice there at you, but the one thing I still didn't fully get my head around yet, because doing 82K on your website is awesome. It's not PPC, it's not Facebook ads. So is it just SEO rankings? I mean, do you rank for a bunch of keywords or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the first page for a lot of them. I mean, I'm 3 or 4. I mean, I don't know much about SEO honestly at all. I mean, I've been around for a while, but there's still other companies that kind of do similar stuff that have been around a lot longer and are bigger. So I'm on the first page for most. But most of it, I think, comes from Facebook. I'm on a lot of the groups, and just kind of, being present there, I think, is where the biggest part of it. Yeah,
okay.
So I don't know if that's technically organic, but
I mean, it kind of is, I think. I mean, in some ways, it's not organic search traffic, but it's organic visits, I guess you could say. Okay, and then I promise this is the last question I'm going to ask him. I promise I'll let you get to your questions.
You keep asking questions.
I just want to make sure I have a good feel for your business so I can give you the best advice. On the Amazon 100K that you did, is that FBA or is it fulfilled by merchant?
Almost all FBA, and I really kind of got serious about, or just kind of serious about the Amazon stuff about mid to early last year.
Okay.
I had done for 2016. I had done, I sold $1,000 a month or less, and it's really kind of an afterthought. Just like, well, might as well. And it was all FBM, and just figured, well, I might as well have it on there, right? I mean, why not? But I think it was around March of last year that I really got everything into FBA and did all that, and since then it's really taken off.
Awesome. Yeah, 10K a month or more in Amazon sales no longer an afterthought now, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah. And right now, I think most of this year I've been over about 20 a month.
Awesome. Cool. So you're on pace to do a lot more than 250K this year then.
Yeah. So I've already done more this year on Amazon than I did last year.
Awesome.
And website isn't nearly as much of a jump.
Right. Yeah, that's the frustrating thing that we deal with. Is it's the same thing. I mean, Amazon keeps growing quicker and quicker, and we can't grow our website nearly as fast. And just as somebody that has been in business for a long time, I'm always cognizant of like having too many eggs in one basket, and Amazon gives me that creepy feel at this stage. And when you're at the size that you're at, I don't think it's like as big of a concern because it's not. I mean, it's a big part of your business, but like the numbers just don't seem the same. Because like when I was at that level, it just didn't bother me. But like now, it's like there's 6 zeros on the number, and it's just like on just the Amazon component, and that number is like a life-changing amount of money. And and then there's like a big risk that's attached with that, which is all the inventory to support those sales. So I mean, it was last year sometime, but I got the bestseller, and it does about a quarter or better of overall sales on Amazon, and it got completely removed because somebody said it was fake. And you can't tell Amazon I make it. It can't be fake, right? I mean, I don't. And they want receipts from where you buy it from, and trying to come up with a receipt for myself, and it just was a nightmare. Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I couldn't relate to it, but we're dealing with it on an almost daily basis now. So, all right, well, I am going to step aside and let you take the floor and start pinging me with questions, and I'm looking forward to helping you out as much as I can here. Yeah. So first thing was just kind of where to start with advertising. If I'm just going to kind of start with one thing, and I think we already went over the Google Merchant and AdWords, but where would you start? Would you start on Google, or would you start on Facebook, or would you just tackle both of them? Yeah, so I'm always trying to be like aware of the situation of the other person on the end of the phone, which is you're basically a solopreneur with one part-time guy, right? So you only have, and you're working still. So like, and I try to tell people this all the time because like we get a lot of this especially through EcomCrew Premium now that we're doing that. Just people like they want to do everything that we're doing, and I'm like, look, guys, like we have 19 people here, and we're heading towards 8 figures this year. So it's a different world, and not to get sucked into that trap because it's very easy to do. So I want to take it from a perspective of like when I was at your size, and I was also just, again, the same thing. I was a solopreneur. I had Dan at the time, was like just me and one guy. Like what's going to be like the lowest hanging fruit to give you like returning your time, so you can hire that next employee and continue to grow your business. So that's what I'm going to approach it from. And Google Shopping is definitely the first thing I would go do. And the reason is that, again, just from a time yield, it's probably 5 to 10 hours being a neophyte, just trying to fumble through getting it set up and everything. But once it's up and running, it's like you might want to go check on it like an hour a month and just kind of keep tabs on, is everything still running? Should I adjust my bids a little bit? You'll maybe get better at breaking up. You can break up the types of products in the different bids. So like you might want to bid more for like aquariums versus fertilizer, just as a complete aside. So I would say that would be one thing. Another thing that I would be investing in is SEO. But the problem in SEO is that you don't see the results immediately, right? So you need things that are going to give you instant results, but it's also one of these things that time is the biggest enemy to SEO. Like you can't ever, a year from now, if you start writing good content, it's going to take you 6, 12, 18 months from then to start seeing results. So one thing I would like kind of think about, the same way that you would approach your own retirement, like you probably, hopefully are putting money in an IRA every year or 401k or whatever. And this is a similar thing. I think if you can find the time to write even just one article a month, because I think that unlike a lot of industries, I know a decent amount about aquariums. My dad was really into it when I was growing up, and People like really nerd out about this stuff, and it's just, it's actually, there's just a lot of amazing content that you can write in this space, and you can write content that will eventually, like convert to sales for you as well. So, I'm
actually started. Sorry, I just have been working on that actually, and I am hiring a guy just as kind of a freelance thing to start. He's, far more knowledgeable about the kind of the chemistry stuff behind it, and just general, planted take information. And we're going to start doing between one a month and one every 2 weeks, and he's going to start writing articles. So that's actually, I'll be releasing my first one here pretty soon. So.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So, my tips here with SEO when you hire someone like this to help, let me give you a few stats. The average article on page 1 on Google now is 2,600 words. So, like, long form stuff is really winning out over the old style of, like, I'm just going to write 300 words and stick them on the page. Your goal, like, if you want to think about like what your objective is for your content writer. And this is what I tell my guys, same speech. When someone makes a search, so let's just say like how to balance the fertilizer in my saltwater aquarium, or I'm talking like an idiot now. I apologize. I don't know.
That's fine.
I know a little bit, but not enough to talk intelligently. But let's just say that's the search.
Yeah.
And let's say you rank 6th, and someone reads the first article and they click back, and then they go read the second one. Like, when they get to your article, like, you don't want them hitting back and then looking at the next result, because the goal is that whatever they're searching for, like, you've answered their question. And if you approach it from that point of view, like everything else, that's like the SEO for dummies approach, right? Because there's a lot of technical things that go behind it, like time on site, the bounce rate, dwell time, and things of this nature. But if you're answering the question, fundamentally like answering the question, and have the best article on that topic on Google, you will percolate to the top naturally, even without doing a lot of backlinking and other stuff that you're going to eventually learn how to do later. But right now, all you got to do is focus on writing the best piece of content on the internet for that subject. And if you can't hit that bar, then don't write the article.
Okay.
And this typically will include pictures, and if you can get video to be included with that, that really helps as well. So if you browse through tactical.com as a for instance and look at some of the stuff that we're doing there, you'll see like a lot of video content either from us or around the web interwoven into it. And that stuff's really important because that helps keep your time on site, your dwell time on the article to be really high. So encourage who you're having write for you to also include like other YouTube videos from around the web about the subject that help with that topic, and or record your own video, throw it on your own YouTube channel, and have that as a part of the article.
Okay. And so is it best to put that in under, so I've got a blog on BigCommerce, but I've had a WordPress site just under a related web address. Is it optimal to put them in both places, or just on my website, or just on WordPress? I mean, does it really matter? Yeah.
So the one thing you definitely don't want to do is put it in quote unquote both places. You don't want what's called duplicate content. That's really bad. So you want it to be in one place or the other. This has been like studied and argued and whatever to death. The consensus by a few points is basically almost always it's better to have it on your main domain versus like a WordPress site on BigCommerce means that's a subdomain. It would be like blog.mystore.com versus mystore.com/ the article.
Yeah.
But the problem is BigCommerce like also kind of sucks as a blogging platform. So you're giving up on one side of the fence, you're giving something up to have an SEO gain, and you're also giving up an SEO gain in the fact that like it won't look as good, which means that people might bounce more. So it's but in general, if you like weigh all that stuff together, it's better to have it on your main domain.
Okay.
Yep. So you had just you still were asking about advertising. So if you don't mind, I'm going to dig in a little bit more on that for you. So what I found is like Google AdWords is very arbitrage, meaning that just like there's people looking for aquarium fertilizer as a for instance. This has been around for 15 plus years. Like everyone's kind of figured out exactly to the penny kind of what they can afford to pay for those searches. A lot of people don't fully understand like all the math and dynamics, so they end up overpaying. And the only one that really ends up winning for the most part is Google. There's some rare exceptions. Like a business like yours might very well be one of those things where you probably have a really good lifetime value of a customer. I mean, I would imagine someone that gets kind of hooked on your aquarium fertilizer is they would be like scared to change because, the balance of the chemicals in the water, you could like end up with a whole aquarium full of dead fish. So you're probably like terrified to change anything. At least I can remember my dad from 30 years ago or 35 years ago, like kind of seemingly having that. And I could even sense that as a kid. So there might be an exception here because of that. So you might want to test something as specific as like the bid for just one keyword, like aquarium fertilizer, and just kind of get your feet wet. Only bid like exact match on something like that and see how it goes. Because I think you might find that on searches like that, you might be able to win out on. But like if there are things that, because you have on here, on my notes here, fertilizer and supplies. So like I don't know if the supplies part of it is more commoditized or people have like a
it is. I mean, that's all just stuff I kind of resell. I mean, really, my primary focus is fertilizer, and then if they, like what I sell, then they might come back and buy the other stuff. But it's really not at this point anything that I push at all.
Okay, yeah. So I think I'd do what I was kind of sensing there, which is just bid on just like aquarium fertilizer or the searches around it, and see how that goes. Because I think on a search like that, it might be a little bit more forgiving. And if you can't do well with that, then you're not going to do well with any of the other stuff. That's like guaranteed. I mean, it's just, you're not going to, the other stuff, because like you said, you're just reselling it. That means lower margin. I mean, I know like all the other things that kind of, that kind of goes along with this. So, I would focus on that. So that would be my AdWords part of it. And then you mentioned Facebook. So I'll talk about that specifically. I mean, the one Facebook ad that you do want to run, no matter what, would be like a retargeting ad. So if you aren't doing that, that would be something that I would definitely, these are kind of like basic building blocks, the things that like always work kind of stuff. I would work on that. And Facebook retargeting ads, whatever you want to call them, are definitely in that bucket. We were doing it all manually ourselves, because like third-party programs didn't exist, but we switched to using Shoelace, because it automates it and it's easier for me to train my staff on like how to do this stuff. And they also have a functionality where they automatically resize your images, which is actually pretty important for Facebook ads and the carousel ads.
Yeah, I found that was one issue I had, is the pictures were always cut off, and
that's the one like really nice. So for like $50 a month or whatever they charge, to me it's like a no-brainer to just pay them that, to even though like I know I could save the money and go through and manually like add the right image to the Open Graph thing, then we have to remember to do that for every single product we're doing. And again, at scale, for me, it's just easier to just tell them to install Shoelace. So we're doing that, but it's definitely something that you want to have. I mean, we're getting like 500 or 600% return on ad spend from those ads. Just like no brainer world for me.
And is that where you're uploading email list from your store?
So it's actually all automatic. So you have the Facebook pixel on your store, and basically what you're doing behind the scenes, if I were to like explain it in English, is I want to advertise to all people who came to my store in the last week that did not purchase. Is basically what's happening. And then you can also, because again, Shoelace does this all automatically, basically what you're also doing is, and you can like add an and to this, and if they've looked at a specific product and not just come to my store, but they've actually been on a specific product page, I want to show them that product and every other product they looked at, or if they only looked at one product, that product and the related products in like a carousel ad. And that's what you'll see like in those remarketing ads that you get yourself when you go visit stores. So if they came and looked at a specific fertilizer, like that's the ad that they're going to get. And then attach like a 10% off coupon to that for a couple of reasons. Number one, like if they didn't buy, they were probably price sensitive, like good chance of that. And number two, it's a great way to track your performance. So like if we use a code FBRM10, which like came up with 3 years ago, which is Facebook remarketing 10% off. And then I know like when that code gets used, that the only way they could see it is if they came through one of those ads. And I know that that it's really effective because I see it getting used all the time.
Okay. And is that the only way you can really track how that's working?
Well, you can. I mean, the Facebook Pixel and ads reporting are supposed to report that as well, and it's pretty accurate. But I do find discrepancies. So being able to use a coupon code like that is definitive. Like the only way they're going to get a hold of it, unless they share the code with somebody, which it does and can't happen. But you can say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Which is fine as well.
Which is fine too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want that to happen. So, yeah, I mean, just another way to kind of cross-reference especially when you first get started, it's a good way to cross-reference your data. So, like, I've had 7 coupon uses, but Facebook's reporting that I've had 30 sales, like, on this ad, and you can be like, wait a second, now that's not possible. So, this helps reconcile that, because like I've definitely seen times where some bogus data has come through, and I've had to diagnose why that's been. A lot of times it's because there's a couple. The number one thing is because you have the wrong view. Like you'll be looking at what Facebook calls like an action or whatever they call that, versus looking at the actual thing you want to be looking at. I forgot the exact way it's worded, but when you go under columns, you can customize the column, and under website, you can look at website purchases, specifically that action, and that's what you want to be looking at.
Okay.
As far as other Facebook ads, I'd be intrigued if I were in your shoes as to if I don't know enough about this market, but again, I know a little bit, but I'm thinking, if your fertilizer really is like that much better than everything else out there, and you can convince people of that with an ad, I think you'd be on to something.
Okay. Like video ad?
Like a video ad for sure, yeah. And we've been using Animoto to do all this. I've talked a lot about it before, but one of the things that we're really struggling with here as a company, especially as we get bigger, I've talked about on the podcast before a couple of times, but just being able to crank out like stuff at scale, like, and it takes so much time and money. Like if I needed to get a video produced by like a third party, it could cost $5,000 or $10,000, and this is e-commerce. We just don't have that kind of money. It's not. And then it's also the time factor. If we do it internally with our own staff, we can get it done cheaper. But then it could take a week a week of multiple people's time. So we've been experimenting with Animoto and trying to get this done in a day. So I've actually been doing it myself right now, and I've been successful. So I've been using a site called Voice Bunny, and you just basically upload this. You write the script, you upload it, you find a voice talent that you like, and then I use something called Audio Blocks, which is like $20. You get music files, and then you just lay over the voice over the music bed and upload that up to Animoto, and then take still photos and video that we're even shooting like on our iPhone, and just stitch these clips together, and next thing you know, you have a video.
Huh. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's just a cheap, like hacky kind of way to do it, and it's like 90 or 95% as good as the $10,000 version that you would get from a pro.
Huh. Yeah, video just sounds overwhelming, and I'm not really a front person or the face of the brand type of person. So that sounds like something I need to look into. Yeah, I mean, we've had the same exact problem here. I've tried to get individuals to be the face or be the voice, and they all kind of shy away from that. So this way, it sidesteps all those problems. We use this Voice Bunny thing. It's like $100, $150 at the most to get the thing recorded. You write the script, you upload it, like I said, just the text version of it, and they within a day return you back the audio file. It's really cool. And then you can get the other thing we've been doing is getting stock video footage from like an iStock photo. So you can actually use like 3/4 of the video can be like just other video that people have taken that's out there of just aquariums. Like it doesn't have to be your bottle of fertilizer going into it for a lot of it. It just, as long as you're communicating the right message and showing like this really clear water and happy fish, then you're getting your point across. It's actually pretty amazing how much you can get done by hacking things. Yeah, that's great. So I would definitely give that a try. I think that the reason I'd be intrigued and the reason I would do it, and I think that it is worth it for you to do it, is because almost certainly, like I don't know this for a fact, I'd have to look it up, but like I would say I'm 99% confident that there's going to be an interest of aquariums on Facebook. Like there has to be an interest group for that. And in fact, as we're talking, I'll look it up and I'll get you the numbers later on in this call. But Okay.
There has to be, and it might even be like ultra specific, like saltwater aquariums or
so it's mostly I do freshwater.
Freshwater. Okay, so I mean, like you might even be able to find an interest group of freshwater aquariums, and like I said, we'll come back to that, and I'll because it's hard to talk and type and do all this at the same time, but I'll get that before the end of this call.
Okay. So the next question, are you done with the advertising stuff?
I am. Yeah. Go ahead.
Next question. So I on your suggestion, I've purchased Klaviyo, or I started Klaviyo subscription, or is it Klaviyo or Klaviyo or however you say it?
As I say, call me anything you want, just don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I keep on hearing different versions of that.
All right. Either way, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I and I use that to send out emails once in a while, and I plan on using that. And that's one thing I should ask when I get the blog stuff going. Should I also be sending that out as emails to my list?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
should I send it in the body, or should I send a link to the blog?
I would do both. I mean, I would not put the entire article in the email. I would have.
I got you.
Like an intro to the article and like a little excerpt from it, and then read the rest of the article here. Kind of get people intrigued, and because you want them to come to your site. I mean, that's like the really important thing. You don't want them to just consume the content and like just open up your email, because that stuff is important. But you want them to click through and end up on your site, which means that they might buy something, which is kind of important.
And it shows that they're more interested than just they opened it and
exactly.
bounced.
Yeah, you want to see the click rate continue to go up. Yeah.
Okay. And then for the flows part, is that something that you do? You use like the wind back flows and the
Absolutely.
abandoned cart flows and okay.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that you brought up Klaviyo next. I had already written down email, and I didn't realize you were already on Klaviyo. But something like fertilizer that's consumable that people probably are buying on a pretty set and regular basis is really ripe for Klaviyo like success. So, you can make a segment of people who have purchased this particular fertilizer. You know that that they're going to use that in 60 days, and then basically 50 days later, reminder you're about to run out of fertilizer, and that stuff does really, really well.
Okay. And that's something I haven't really looked into, but it does have that information of what they bought, and where do I find that? Yeah,
good question. So, first of all, you need to have BigCommerce or Klaviyo hooked up to BigCommerce, so you have to make sure that
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you'll do is you'll go in and you can either just take notes or follow along yourself in Klaviyo. But I've done it so many times that I can do it off the top of my head. But you're going to make a segment within Klaviyo, and you're going to say I want like all people who have purchased an item, and you can put in SKU equals whatever that SKU is.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
And then you'll have a segment of all those people, and then you could then create a flow that is triggered off of people who have that enter in that segment, and you can wait a delay of 50 days or whatever to send it out.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. I thought that I had read something about that you could do that, but I had no idea, because I had looked at the segments that I have already just from where I've imported different things, and they've got the churn risks and the VIP customers and that kind of stuff that I guess is just automatic in Klaviyo, but I couldn't figure out how to create one of them. So
right.
That's awesome.
So that's how you would do it, and then you would trigger a flow off of that, and that would be like 2 or 3 emails. Reminder: you're about to run out of fertilizer. I'm not kidding. You're really about to run out of fertilizer, and then you could do 10% off or something if they haven't bought, and basically you would eject them from the flow once they repurchase. So you would just have the series of emails that are going out, but it wouldn't continue if they make another purchase.
Yeah. Okay. And then just a general, do you do the abandoned cart sequence, or do you use the one through your website?
We use Klaviyo abandoned cart sequence. It's way better than the one through the website. You can make it look prettier, and it's definitely way, way better. Now, one other thing that Klaviyo really excels at, if you really want to get the true value out of Klaviyo, is it actually has this synchronization feature where you can synchronize segments over to Facebook. And the way that works is when you create the segment, and I forgot the exact tab on the segment. I think it's setup or something along those lines. You would synchronize your segment to a Facebook audience. So let's say you've had 1,000 people or whatever it is buy this particular fertilizer in an XYZ time period, again, it's consumable. So like after 50 days, you want to start running Facebook ads to them, buy more fertilizer. It's like incredibly effective because we get 30% open rates on our emails, which is like 3 times the industry average on e-commerce, which means that 70% of people are never looking at our emails, which is obviously really frustrating, but they might be on Facebook. And in fact, a lot of them are. And when you're running a Facebook ad to somebody and they've already purchased from you, the chances of them buying again are quite high. So, and you can do this with a lot of things where it's not only reminder to buy, but what I call bought this, but haven't bought that. So in our world, that's, someone that's bought gel pens, but hasn't bought colored pencils, or someone that's bought gel pens or pencils that hasn't bought markers, or whatever it might be. It also could be like another example that's more linear is like they've bought mandalas version 1, but they haven't bought volume 2. So like if you have things like that, that makes sense where let's say you've bought fertilizer, but you haven't bought a test kit or whatever it might be. Those types of things can work incredibly well as well. And one of the things I talk about a lot, I mean, this is just like the e-commerce and entrepreneur dilemma, is it's always more fun and interesting to get like more new customers. And oftentimes we forget about the ones we already have. And especially in a business like this, where you have the opportunity to continue to nurture existing customers, I would definitely be taking advantage of that through these synchronized email and Facebook ad campaigns.
Is that the integration to Facebook advertising?
Yeah, so that's you're probably in like the integrations tab right now. You need to do that first. And you have to have that set up, and then once that's done, when you go under segments and you click on the actual segment, and again, I think it's under like the set. Like once you're in the segment, it's like set up or configure. Or I'll go look for that as well real quick in this other tab, because I already have some other news to report to you about the aquariums, which is that there's a 3 million person group of people who like aquariums in the United States, which is a big group. I mean, it's 3 times the size of our coloring audience. So you have, I think, a pretty good and real opportunity to advertise aquariums. It's 27 million people worldwide, but in the United States alone, which I assume is your target market, is 3 million people, which is just massive. And I don't know if there's like, let me just type in like freshwater. Let me see if there's like anything for freshwater aquarium specifically as an interest group as well. It's much smaller. It's only 40,000 people, but you could use that as probably a softball kind of test just to see get some initial ads and stuff done. There's a lot you can do with that. So definitely check that out. And then if I go under list and segments here in our own Clavio account, and I click on a segment, it is under settings. So you'll go under settings for that segment, and then you can do Facebook advertising, and it's like this list right now. And the one I'm looking at says this list is currently not syncing with a Facebook custom audience. Choose a custom audience to sync with. You'll click on that, and then you'll create your custom audience. And now what it'll do is however many people are in your segment will be those exact same people will be the ones that will be in the audience for Facebook, minus the ones that it can't match. It's not 100% match rate, but it's pretty damn good. And then you can then run an ad to them. So like with Facebook, it's more private, right? I mean, on email, like exactly by the individual who exactly you're emailing. There's no secrets about that. On Facebook, it's like I want to run this ad to a pool of people, and I don't know exactly who they are and who's opening the ad or clicking on it on an individual basis, but you can look at that on a cumulative basis, and I can promise you that these ads will be the most effective ones you'll ever run.
Okay. And so you're sending that to a lookalike audience, or just purely those people that
purely those people. Now, what we will do is create a lookalike audience as well, but that's a separate thing and a separate type of ad. So the ads I'm speaking of are like people that bought this specific fertilizer product, and you want them to buy more of that. So you're going to run an ad saying like, buy more. Like you've already bought it, like no,
you're about ready to run out,
like buy more. Or Mr. Customer, like you haven't bought from us for 90 days or 180 days, like win back campaign type thing. Here's 10% off anything in our store. Come back. We miss you. Now, the lookalike audience would be making a segment in Klaviyo, and this is also really important, something else you're going to want to do for sure. You're going to want to make a segment in Klaviyo that's purely people who have purchased. So like I want to make a segment of someone who's placed an order at least once. Done. I'm going to call that purchasers. And then what I'm going to do is go synchronize that over to Facebook. And then I'm going to create a lookalike audience based on that segment. So the lookalike audience would be people who look like my purchasers, most likely to buy from me, whatever you want to call the lookalike audience at that point. And then what you'll do is you'll run a different type of ad, like come check out my fish shop or whatever your store is called, get 10% off. Like we're running a sale today, whatever the ad is, or maybe it's this video about your awesome fertilizer. Like you got to upgrade the fertilizer and your fish tank and talk about whatever benefits it is. And that's the ad that runs to cold traffic. Yeah. And that's going to be the trickier thing. So I would start again with the lower hanging fruit. I would start with getting your abandoned cart sequence done properly, getting your win back sequence in place, emailing people reminders to repurchase products that are consumable and get used on a pretty fixed basis, emailing them about bought this but I haven't bought that, and synchronizing some of those audiences with Facebook so some of the stuff I just talked about, actually all those things I just talked about, happen in conjunction with Facebook ads, knowing that only so many people are going to actually ever see the email, and you want to try to replicate those efforts on Facebook.
Try to catch them all.
Yeah, and start there. That's like, this is already a couple of months worth of work. So for a one-man team. So, but they're going to produce your results. Like these are things that you're going to like. The thing that's really cool about this is that you're going to do this stuff and like you're going to wake up the next morning and see results.
Yeah, and that's where I've known that for a long time. I've needed to start. Not that I've maxed out the organic stuff by any means, but I think I'm missing out on a large portion of revenue because I don't do any of this.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I can promise you just from an entrepreneurial journey is like, you're always going to feel this way.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something else next. That's like, I know I need to be doing this, but I haven't done it yet. So, that's all completely fine. We all have those things.
What is a standard organic versus paid revenue or visits or whatever? How does that normally break down?
Say that one more time. I want to make sure I fully understand the question.
Is there a normal, like, okay, well, if you have this many organic orders or whatever it is that then adding in paid advertising should bring this, or is there a target for that, or is it just? Yeah,
there's definitely this is like an impossible thing to answer because every niche is different, and some niches only exist on paid advertising. Like some businesses, I should say, not necessarily even just a niche, but they only exist, like the only way they get traffic is through paid advertising. Some businesses rely on search and stuff. I mean, a good example is Ezra, my buddy Ezra Firestone. Mm-hmm. I mean, he spends 7 figures a year on paid ads and doesn't care about SEO. Like we talk about this all the time, and I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me, but like he's just not an SEO guy. But I'm also not as deep in the paid ads. So everyone's business is different. And I wouldn't look at it as a ratio or anything like that. I mean, the way that I would look at it, this is the way that I look at it at least, is that I want a return on my ad spend. Like I want my ads to be profitable. I want that to be a profitable sub-center of my business. And if it is, and I'm going to spend every dollar I can possibly get my hands on it, there is no budget. As long as I can keep under that target, I will find the money. I've got credit cards. I can, I'll go take a home equity loan, whatever I got to do. If I can play a game of, I give Facebook $1 and they give me back $5, I will play that game as many times as you allow me to put a quarter in a machine. I'll play that game. And that would be the way that I would look at it. The thing that we run into is we just can't scale it. Like and mostly because like a lot of our audiences are becoming saturated, so we can't ramp up to like $1,000 a day or $10,000 a day on ads. To that, we have it seems like it performs better when we spend a little bit less, and that's kind of the spot that we're at. And we've been playing around with this. We actually found a couple new interest groups and some stuff that we're doing that are this is for color specifically that are kind of helping with that. But yeah, I mean, my viewpoint is as long as I can play the game of, like I said, I give you one and you give me two, or you give me five, or whatever that number is. As long as it's more than one, I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think that's so. I recently I had been using Seller Labs, and I'm drawing a blank on what their Amazon PPC.
Yeah, it's called Ignite.
Ignite, yeah. And I had been using that, and then I kind of dropped off on that, and I'd kind of just been doing it through Amazon, and then again on your suggestion, I switched over to Celix, their full suite, a few weeks ago, and so I'm just kind of going through that right now, and so my ACOS is definitely about double what it had been. Is that kind of normal when you set it up? Because I'm doing kind of what you suggested, starting with the automatic and moving keywords over to, because I had previous information of better performing keywords, I started with some exact match and broad match. But is that kind of expected when we start this, or?
Yes, like 100% for sure. And so my philosophy with this, again, I'm building this for scale, and like I know, like the episode I did about this like raised a lot of interesting questions. So I mean, I'm doing it for scale, so it's about efficiency. Like, how can I have one person that's managing this for me in the Philippines like deal with this for multiple marketplaces and all the new products we're launching, et cetera. It's a lot of work when you're talking about that rate. And for me, like, I want to be a little bit more aggressive. Like, I'm not worried about like the amount of money I make on something like this today. I'm worried about like the max efficiency as far as sales, let's say 3 to 6 months from now.
Okay.
So the way that I mentioned it there, that you're doing, where you're setting up the automatic campaign and you're letting it run at a little bit higher bid, yeah, you're overspending in the short run, but you're going to get more data. And that's the thing that was important to me as I was looking through it. Do I want to take an approach of, do I spend more on this? I know I'm wasting some money, but I also know that I'm getting more data, and it's actually like a lot more accurate data. And it's better to bid down than try to bid up, because if you're trying to bid up from like a much lower number, you're going to miss a bunch of keywords that you would never have bid on, which was when we were doing some testing with this. And to me, that was really important. Like, I wanted to be able to get like all the keywords to make sure that we were capturing all that, which is really important. So now, like, over time, I think I just did an update about this. It was either on the podcast or on one of our webinars. We're down to like 22% ACOS now, which from last year is down almost 10 full points. And it's 5 figures in spend per month down.
Yeah.
But our sales have stayed exactly the same, like within $1,000. It's 106,000 or something like that a month off of just PPC sales. Mm-hmm. So the method's definitely working very well, like on a longer term. And we're like I said, we're bidding on a lot more keywords. I find things that I never would have thought to bid on. Like, I look through the stuff myself sometimes, and it's quite interesting. So if you can stick with it for a little bit, I would just let it kind of run out, and Celix will adjust those bids down for you automatically over time and get them where they need to be.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. I just wanted to kind of make sure that that's what we were looking at, because I've always kind of taken the opposite, trying to work the other way, and it makes sense starting high and moving down.
Yeah, so like if you think about it like this, let's just say, like, let's use the aquarium fertilizer again as a keyword search, just or the product, let's say, and you have all your keywords in the back end, large aquarium, small aquariums, freshwater aquarium, like all these different keywords you have like in your back end. But there's going to be ones that you don't think to bid on as well. And if you set like an automatic campaign up with a bid of, let's say, $2, you'll catch all the broad keywords that are possible for your listing. And what I've seen happen is, because automatic campaigns are also your suggested sponsored products underneath the listing, when people click through from those other products, whatever keyword they search for competitors' products and found you will then also start to become automatic bid keywords for you as well. Does that make sense? So let me explain, make sure that what I'm saying.
You mean the ASIN or whatever that shows up in there? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So like if someone were to search for like charcoal black aquarium fertilizer, something that you would never think to bid on, they find a competitor's product. They look at the competitor's product, and down below in the competitor's product is sponsored products related to this product, and you show up there. When they click through that, Amazon, because of the automatic bidding, is going to now associate that keyword to your product, and it'll start bidding on that charcoal black, thing, whatever thing that you never thought of to bid on, and that'll become like one of your keywords that it'll continue to try to bid on for you. This is something that doesn't happen when you're bidding significantly lower.
Yeah,
and so I found that, like, again, there's some short-term pain for like the long-term gain kind of thing. And even though your ACOS is up, you're probably still like turning a profit.
And that's not a worry at all. I just and I had for the past year or more, I haven't done any auto campaigns, so all the ASINs showing up definitely shows that there's some value to that. So
yeah, I mean, having those auto campaigns is like really, really important. Those you'd be shocked. Like once you start doing if you follow what I was talking about step by step, and you look at when you go into the automatic campaign and Selix, and you look at the keywords, and you see how many ASINs show up there, and how many sales you're getting off of that, it'll be a real aha moment of like, oh my god, like what was I doing this whole time? Because I had the same thing happen at one point. I was like, oh god, like we really missed the boat here. And what's happened now for like the ones that we've been doing this now for like 6+ months. We've stripped off every single keyword like we never really have any keywords anymore show up at all in our automatic campaigns. So the only thing that we're showing up for is like some random new outlier like keyword here and there. And most of it now is all ASIN stuff showing up in there. And because Selix automatically adjusts that bid, it's constantly like lowering the bid down for us. And we're spending less and less money because we're only need to show up there. So like over time, it's been like highly effective.
Yeah, no, just in mine, I've got 3 pages of the search terms, and easily half of them are ASINs.
Yeah. So perfect. So it's like kind of what I'm talking about. And those are sales that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And even worse, like in the Amazon world, what's even worse for you is that it's one of your competitors would have gotten that sale, which is actually like really bad, because like that helps their conversion rate, and helps their bestseller ranking, and it helps their like that whole flywheel effect on Amazon, and pushes them above you or pushes you below them, whatever way you want to look at it. So it's even more important from that perspective.
Yep. No, I agree completely. But yeah, that's all of my questions that I have for you.
Awesome. Well, I hope that some of this stuff helps you get to your goal of being able to go full time on this and quit the day job. And like I said, congrats and kudos for the success you've had so far. It's definitely an awesome story. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Hey, I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this for me, and I really appreciate it. Of
course. And like I always say to everybody that comes and does this, please follow up with us in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whenever you think you have something interesting to share with how this stuff has worked out for you, or even if it worked out badly, and tell me like I gave you bad advice and I owe you a beer or something. Either way, I'd love to hear from you and see how things are going.
All right. I appreciate it very much.
Awesome, Colin. Have a good one. And that's a wrap, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed the 198th episode of the EcomCrew podcast. You can go to ecomcrew.com/198 to get to the show notes for this episode. Let us know what you think about Colin's business or anything that we talked about. We'd love to hear from you as always. And this is the last full-length episode before Thanksgiving. We will have a special Thanksgiving episode coming up, which will be our 199th episode, which is pretty cool. So I want to wish everyone that's in the United States a happy Thanksgiving. I know that most of our listeners, we've actually pretty much been able to determine that we actually have most of our listeners not even in the United States, which is cool that we're such a global podcast. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, It's probably the second biggest holiday, I would say, after Christmas in the United States, and going to be going and seeing some friends this year. Looking forward to that, but taking a few days off. And if you are in the United States, again, happy Thanksgiving, and look forward to that special 199th episode of the EcomCrew podcast that will be coming out on Thanksgiving Day. All right, guys, until the next episode, happy selling, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the EcomCrew podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/EcomCrew for weekly live recordings of the EcomCrew podcast every Monday. And please do us a favor and leave an honest review on iTunes. It would really help us out. Again, thanks for listening. And until next week, happy selling.